relatively straightforward, it's far from it. But the principles really are about effectiveness rather than efficacy. It's about, does it work in real life, under real life conditions, versus does it work in a laboratory? And so in our methods guide, this is the methods guide for technology appraisal, so the appraisal of individual or groups of technologies. Clinical effectiveness is about how well it works in normal clinical practice compared with what normally goes on, what's routinely going on, what is this new intervention going to bring. And it's about overall health benefits, so we are looking at quality of life, we are looking at overall survival. They are the things that are tangible to us. So all of the, perhaps all of the more clinically related markers of outcome need to be translated into those two overarching outcome measures. When we talk about cost effectiveness, our main focus is called opportunity cost. That's about, in my terms, being a pharmacologist and not a health economist, that's about what else I could do with that money and whether or not investing in this particular course of action produces more health benefit than I would gain from investing that money in something else. So that's, in a sense, the underlying principle of value for money and underpins our methodology of cost effectiveness. What I've done now, again, I'm sorry for the busy slide, but there are a whole range of recommendations that I could offer to you that then start to drill down a little bit from our overriding processes and methods into this personalisation. Perhaps personalisation from the perspective of a health policy maker is slightly different from personalisation on an individual patient basis. But to be honest, if we have a good system that provides good value for money and we have the infrastructure enabled to implement personalisation well enough, I don't think that those two things are incompatible. I don't think the policy perspective and the individual perspective is incompatible at all. Here are some recommendations from our technology appraisal program. You can see that the types of recommendations that we attempt to make are thinking about identifying who is best for this technology, and that usually translates into improved cost effectiveness evidence. So again, those two things go together, and you'll see the standard ones. We've got trastuzumab and gefitinib targeted on a molecular basis in terms of recommendations. And Jack said with the type of cancer that looked like, again, this was mainly from the clinical trials that have been developed, whilst the marketing authorization is a little bit broad, the types of carcinomas that would be most effectively treated were only in a particular time. So that's, in a sense, the personalisation on a molecular basis. Of course, we can't always do that. The biology and the science hasn't really kept up with our desire to optimise and personalise. And here's a set of recommendations. This is for a technology used for psoriatic arthritis, also used for rheumatoid arthritis, I'm sure you know. This time, really trying to optimise to identify the response. So the response that you would, the severity that you would need to have in order for this particular technology to have the most effect. And then thinking about when to stop. When would you decide when it's not a good idea to carry on because the technology is not having as great effect as you would expect? These are the types of detail that we would go into in our technology appraisals evaluations. And that's the same for our public health interventions guidance or our clinical pathway guidance. Now here's a couple of slides on the challenge, because we've been undertaking these evaluations for now over 10 years. And of course, over those years, what has exploded really is this specialisation in targeting of the perhaps particular pharmaceutical associated with the diagnostics. So we at the moment are spending quite a bit of time thinking about how we now capture that development in science and pharmaceutical development into our technology appraisal program. Up until a few years ago, we wouldn't have necessarily an individualised companion diagnostic associated with a new pharmaceutical, but that's what's happened. And that's good for us, actually. It's very good, because that allows, at the point of marketing approval, in a sense that that pursuit of personalisation to already be in place. And now we need to find a way within our methodology and our processes to capture it. It's quite tricky at the moment because there aren't necessarily any hard and fast rules about what is and what isn't companion diagnostic. But here's the latest thinking within specifically our technology appraisals program. We are certainly developing some strategies, some rules for how to progress and identify these things. We have to, right at the start of our evaluation, recognise that there will be a companion diagnostic issue to address. In our interactions with the company, in their submissions to us, we're going to have to talk to them about how they capture the efficacy, effectiveness of the companion diagnostic alongside the pharmaceutical. We're going to, in addition to try to drill down into the evidence base of the pharmaceutical, also do the same for the companion diagnostic. You can see that the evaluation's just got a little bit more complex. Thinking about then moving into clinical practice, what happens if a particular diagnostic that might have been associated in the marketing authorization in clinical trials isn't necessarily the one that's being used in clinical practice? How do we try to meet those two? And how do we signal to our National Health Service the best use of the coupling of that diagnostic with pharmaceutical? That's the type of optimization, personalization challenges that we're facing just now in our technology appraisal program. Just to give you a little bit of an insight. So here are my conclusions. It has been a very whistle-stop tour of the Institute. You can find lots more information on our website. That's www.nice.org.uk. Here are my conclusions. For us as an institute, we have been interested in that focus on personalisation and optimisation of these interventions really right from the start of our institute. They have the potential to both improve clinical effectiveness, so improve the delivery of care, and improve the experience from a patient, from a personal perspective. They also are likely through that strategy to improve value for money, improve the cost effectiveness of the use of those interventions. So, in a sense, a win-win situation. The issue we face, I think, all of us at the moment, is that we're not quite there yet. That promise really does need to be realised. It needs to be accepted, perhaps, from the technology developers, that they now are in the same domain as we are, at trying to identify and to target. And the very tangible examples you heard in the last presentation about the way that the pharmaceutical industry is changing its mind about how to target therapy. The issue about the provision of robust and relevant evidence, I think, becomes even more important, because what we as an institute are about, and I'm sure what most clinicians want to know, is does it work in the real world? And that translation from the bench then to the regulatory environment into clinical practice is really where both the fun starts, the excitement starts, but also the challenge starts. Thinking about personalised treatment and personalised management, you have to think about how you adopt that in routine clinical practice. So again, from that controlled environment to how's it going to work in the healthcare system, and can the things that you find out within the scientific context, how easily are they to be adapted to routine clinical practice? And I think really the challenge for us all, especially now in these constrained, austere times that we're all in with finances, in thinking about achieving this so that we're not going to incur more burden onto the health system, but actually we're going to make it more efficient. Thanks very much.